Boldwood presents Clash of Kings, written by M.J. Porter, and read by Matt Coles. The moral right of the author has been asserted. This performance is owned by Boldwood. Part 1. Aftermath. Chapter 1. Summer 937. Winchester, the Kingdom of the English. Edgarfu, the Lady of Wessex. I eye the messenger before me. I wish I could tell who it is, but he's down on one knee, face pressed low to the ground, awaiting permission to speak. I look to Edred, my youngest son, and he shrugs his narrow shoulders. It seems he can't identify the man either. I huff softly with annoyance. I want to know that my king and my son are victorious on the battlefield against the might of the Norse and the King of the Scots. Who, then, is it with knowledge of protocol, and the respect due to me and to my son, as well as to Alpin, the son of the King of the Scots, who stands beside Edred? He might be a prisoner, but Alpin is still esteemed according to his birthright. Rise, I mutter quickly, deciding I've had enough of my fears and worries. Vibrant eyes greet mine, even brighter cloth beneath the folds of the dull-coloured cloak, perfect for riding in, whether rain or shine.
My lady, my lords.
The accent tells me straight away. This man is from West Francia. Immediately my thoughts turn to King Louis. I can see Edred opening his mouth to demand answers. The messenger beats him to it. I've been sent by King Louis, the fourth of his name, to inform my lord King Athelstan that Louis is now free from the fetters of his uncle by marriage. He rules in his name and with the support of his mother, Queen Dowager Edgarfu, and the Archbishop of Reims. I feel a sour smile on my lips at the reminder of Edgarfu, my namesake and stepdaughter. It's been little more than a year since she left these shores, but I've forgotten her haunting presence quickly enough. I lift my gaze to Edred's and meet his fierce eyes. He and Louis were firm allies. This must please him to know that Louis is free from the lowering presence of his uncle. We were all suspicious of the intentions of Count Hugh. However, my deliberations run counter to this, and I notice the unwary expression on the messenger's face. Why now? I almost whisper. Alas, the man begins. Alas, Countess Edhild met her death before the summer. She lies now entombed close to Paris. I shudder at the thought. I consider if Athelstan will mourn his half-sister. I also realize that Edhild's sisters must be told of this. I'll send to Wilton and ensure they know. And I realize there's more. King Louis has allied with Hugh the Black. I wrinkle my nose at this. I don't know who he is. As England is served with too many Athelstans and Edwards, West Francia has far too many Hughs. The messenger must notice my confusion. He is the brother of the man who was king before Louis. Still, I'm perplexed, and I'd ask much more of the messenger, only now, from outside, we all hear the drum of fast-approaching hoofbeats, loud over the hard-packed road. My eyes swivel to the front of the hall, willing the messenger to hurry and enter. He's come from the north. I'm sure of it. I notice that Skule and Osulf lumber to their feet now. The aldermen, or rather jarls, were to stay here and protect Edred and myself, while Edmund and Athelstan rode to war. Osulf hastens outside. I wish he'd move faster. A flurry of voices, the loud crash of someone dismounting in a hurry, and then a dust-stained man is before me. It's Whitred, and I sigh with relief on seeing the victorious gleam in his eyes. My gaze turns to Alpin, and I notice a haphazard smile on his lips at the sight of Whitred. I consider who he wished to be triumphant, his father or the man who's kept him close all these years. Not that it matters any more.
"Victory, my lady! My lords!"
He calls for all to hear, his eyes appraising as they sweep over Alpin with a knowing look.
"Victory at the Battle of Brunanburh! Never yet!"
He continues as though he's a scop, and I smile at his exuberance, for it matches my joy.
"Was there a greater slaughter of the bloody Norse?"
Chapter 2. October 937. Dublin, Ireland.
King of the Dublin Norse. Aye, my brother, with unease where he stands on the quayside of Dublin, festooned as though he's the king here and not me. Admittedly, I bid him rule here in my absence, but all the same, I didn't expect him to adopt the accoutrements of my kingship so easily. He returns my look without inhibition from beneath the thick wolf cloak he wears. He didn't agree with my decision to ally with Olaf Gothfrithson, giving him Dublin to rule when I was victorious and held Jorvik. No doubt, in the absence of both of us, Gothfrith has done much to win the support of the Dubliners. If Olaf lives, I don't see he'll have an easy time of it now. I don't think that I will either. "Brother," he calls to me. "No lord or king, just brother. Damn him." "Brother." I counter quickly. I hoped to come here in triumph, but instead my ship has barely limped into Dublin's quayside. I'm defeated. But I'm not about to let on to that while Gothfrith watches me with his ambitious eyes. The moans and wails of my shipmen sunder the tension between us. "A triumph," he offers sarcastically, coming forward, extending his arm towards me so that I stay upright after the days and days at sea as I place my feet on dry land. Well, almost dry land. The planks beneath my feet extend over the reaches of the slurping water. It shouldn't have taken us as long to return to Dublin. The weather has been a bitch, the goddess of the sea making her displeasure known only too well. "Indeed," I confirm, mirroring his tone, welcoming his support, although it shows me as weak, just like the wrecks of my ships. There are few of us. 2 follow on close behind, but we've not made this journey together. We came upon them only with the sunrise. Their wolf-headed sails proclaim them as my shipmen and warriors, but I've only seen 1/3 of the number of men who should cruise such a craft on board each one. How many, I consider, have been consigned to the depths during the perilous journey home? Too many. Too many. "Where's your—" The words are pointed. He knows that the battle wasn't a triumph. He knows I've lost. "Tell me at least that Olaf Gothfrithson met his end." His lips curl as he speaks. Gothfrith has no love for Olaf, who thinks to rule Dublin in my name. Gothfrith would far sooner be ruling, but Olaf is a great-grandson of Ivar the Boneless as well. We are cousins, alas. I can answer none of these questions. I'm defeated. I've lost all, well, apart from Dublin. I hope my son Caman lives. I know Rognevaldi, my brother, doesn't. Rognevaldi is dead, I admit sullenly. He died fighting to save my life. A worthless endeavor. Gothfrith complains, his voice filled with sorrow all the same for our dead brother. There were once 5 of us, but now only 3 remain. His eyes are everywhere, watching the men limp ashore behind me. How has he heard tales of our failure? Have others made it home before me? Tell me what you know, I demand.
When we're inside and these men have left their ships.
He surprises me with his concern for others, or perhaps it's merely a tactic to delay the inevitable of informing me of all he's heard of the battle. I lean on his arm, all the same. I smell the too familiar aroma of Dublin, and I could cry, I don't deny it. My dreams, my ambitions, my brother. They all lie dead on that battlefield, or rather, slaughter field over the sea. That damn bastard King Athelstan of the English, and his pestilent brother Edmund. I must have my revenge against them both. I must. Although, right now, it all seems impossible. I stink of battle, vomit, and the sea. I'm little more than a beggar I'd normally kick in the street to free my gutters from clogging with filth. The beggar included in that assessment. Later, inside my hall, I meet the haunted eyes of the many women and boys who've come, seeking news of their men and fathers. I can scarcely hold their furious, blame-filled gazes. Worse, men and boys are dead in my name. I don't even have my new wife at my side. Only now does Gothfrith speak. We've heard the reports of the defeat.
2 ships made it home before you did. The men were dead or dying. The storms finishing what the English scum began.
His words thrum with fury. He said nothing other than that Ragnavaldi's death in battle was a waste. He's cast no complaints my way. And then he does look at me, drawing my eyes to his with a hairy hand that I try to bat aside. But I'm too damn weak. I need to eat an ox or a boar, but right now my belly still rolls with the swell of the ocean that's finally spat me out and allowed me home to Dublin.
They blame the Scots king and your bitch of a new wife.
I wince at that. Gothfrith has always liked my first wife. He releases his hold on me, and now the very woman materializes before me. Her face isn't just streaked with tears, but with claw marks where her nails have gouged her skin.
Tell me!
She hisses, spitting into my face.
Tell me that my son lives! My only son!
I can't. I can't tell her anything. I don't know. He might yet live. He might even, and horror fills my gurgling stomach now, be a hostage of the English king, just as Alpin is, the son of King Constantin of the Scots.
Tell me, you useless turd!
Her pinpoint nails snake down my face. I feel the burn of hot blood erupting from the strike, more wounds to add to those I've already gathered. I'm too feeble to counter the unexpected attack. Now tears sting my eyes as well. Come on, my son. Where is he? Isn't it enough to have lost my brother, to have lost my warrior reputation? I can't imagine, and haven't allowed myself to consider, what it will be like to know I've lost my son as well. Leave it, woman! Gothfrith's words ring with conviction. I'm astounded when she backs away, still spitting and hissing as though a I realize there's something else between the two of them, but I don't know what it is, and I don't care. I want to sleep. I need to rest. I reach for a beaker of ale. The only way to sleep is to drown my sorrows and my fear, to curb my anger and resentment, to stop those blood-drenched visions of my failure from recurring time and time again. But Gothfrith has my face once more in his hairy hand, eyes blazing. "You need to make this right, you damn fool. Make this right, or I'll take Dublin from you, and it'll be as though you never lived. Make this right, or so help me, Olaf, your wife won't be the only one prepared to rip your skin and shed your blood." I nod weakly, pulling my head from his hands, and then startle at a sudden shriek. I turn towards my first wife, her howling fury as she keens. But not for the dead, thank the gods. No, my son yet lives, and his furious gaze meets mine across the room as his mother's arms clasp him tight while he shakes and shudders in his ripped, foul clothes. Behind him, more broken men move into the room, bringing with them the smell of the ocean and of failure. More women shriek and wail, some in delight, others in pain on seeing their husbands, sons, and fathers. All the time Command's eyes are on mine. His face is a grimace of unhappiness as his mother clings to him, her body shaking as violently as when she thought him dead. His survival fills me with a resolve I thought lost. I now must recover all that I've squandered, if only to ensure my son receives his birthright. My father failed me. I'll not allow that deep wound to infect my son as well. I will find my resolve. And God willing, my new wife as well, the daughter of King Constantin of the Scots. Muir was only in my bed for one night, but she's still the bargain that binds us together. I can't see it was a good agreement, but she's mine, and I only hope she appears, as Command has done, in one of the other ships limping back to Dublin. But first, I must drink until I sleep, and then drink some more until I sleep yet again. I've wounds that need healing, and they're not just on my body.
Chapter 3. October 937. The Kingdom of the Scots. Constantin, King of the Scots. My Lord King, the words are more query than greeting. I feel my lips curl, bloody Malcollium. I shouldn't have left him to rule in my stead. It would have been better had he died on the slaughter field beside Owain of Strathclyde. Then I'd face only the wrath of my sons that yet live, and not my successor. Mal, I murmur. I'm old, tired, and broken. My body refuses to obey me, and I stagger, held up by my grandsons, who've ensured I made it across the border and into my kingdom. We're all hollow eyes and filthy. Ildolb's not in much better condition. Mal's lips curl at the sight of me, and no doubt at seeing that Ildolb lives. A great victory, he questions. And if I could, I'd punch him. I wouldn't even care who witnessed the discord between the two of us. I'm amazed that Ildolb doesn't hit him on my behalf. No, a too-bright voice answers, one of my grandsons. Indeed, the odious man reiterates, his single word grating over my aching back and sodden clothes. In northern England, before and during the battle, the weather was bright sunshine. But since the sky darkened that night, covering the slaughter field, it's done nothing but bloody rain.
Warm water, fresh clothes, hot food.
He orders my servants, as though he's the master here and I'm not. I'd kill him for that if my hand had the strength to lift a sea axe.
Your daughter?
He questions, and I wince at the reminder that I don't know where she is. My grandsons and I fled north in a ship over the Mersey River to our encampment, but she was already gone. I don't know where, and I've hardly had any army of warriors to seek her out.
Perhaps my Lord King,
I brace, waiting for more invective, but he leaves my side. I'm rushed away by servants to the welcome heat and pleasure of being warm and clean, and then into my luxurious fur bed. I sleep the sleep of the dead and curse on waking. How much easier would it have been to simply end it all here?
Father,
I startle at Ildolb's tone. My voice scratches in response. Enter, son, enter. Ildolb stands before me as a changed man. I can tell immediately. His eyes blaze with fury, and his stance is tight.
Mal's a cock,
he exclaims, and then settles beside me unbidden.
What will we do now?
His question is one I've been considering ever since I fled the battlefield. Keep out of trouble. I caution. King Athelstan will send his demands for reparations, and they must be paid. The finest of our warriors are dead. It'll be a surprise to find that Alpin yet lives. Ildolb absorbs this without surprise. He knows, after all, he saw it with his own eyes. I thought I had him. He growls. This has been an oft-repeated phrase since he found me fleeing the battle site whenever I mention King Athelstan.
But it was his damn cousins. I killed them both of them bloody fools.
I know, son. I know. I repeat. How much better would our current situation be if Ildolb had killed Athelstan of the English instead of his equally well-equipped cousins?
We should retaliate now, while they're not expecting it.
With what warriors? I feel my temper begin to fray. Ildolb knows as well as I do that we left thousands of dead men of the Scots at that cursed place, close to the sea, hemmed in by 2 rivers. We thought to be victorious, but we were very, very wrong.
So what, father? You would have us lick our wounds and play the subservient? Allow Athelstan to claim dominion over our kingdom?
Yes. My response is firm. For all, Ildolb vaults to his feet and begins to pace.
Mal has the support to replace you.
Mal thinks he has the support to replace me, but he doesn't. He has no warriors, just as I have no warriors. You need to understand there's no immediate retribution. Not this time.
What of my sister?
What of her? We have no one to seek her out, not unless I send you or one of your brothers. Ildolb shakes his head at this, the snarl on his lips reminding me of a dog on the hunt.
She's your only daughter.
And I want her returned to me, but she wasn't at the campsite. I don't know where she is.
But we'll find her.
We will, yes, hopefully.
What if the English have her?
They didn't cross the Mersey River. I counter aggressively. I don't want to argue with Ildolb. I want us to be united in our approach to what's befallen us.
Perhaps.
He admits, a shrug of his tight shoulders. For now, we listen and we learn. We do what's expected of us. An apology to King Athelstan, reparations as demanded, and the hope that your brother Alpin yet lives, although if I were King Athelstan, he'd be long dead.
Forget about Alpin,
Ildolf dismisses.
He's more English than Scots now. Whether he lives or dies is irrelevant. It'd be better if he was dead. As harsh as that sounds, it's Malmuir who concerns me. Her and this union with Olaf Gothfrithson of the Dublin Norse.
I startle at that. What of it? Olaf is just as ruined as we are if he yet lives.
Perhaps.
Ildolf muses. He's misplaced if he thinks Olaf Gothfrithson will help us now. We enticed him to war with the promise of a bride and Jorvik. It seems he has none of these things. He might not even yet live. I didn't see him when I fled the battlefield.
Rest,
my son orders me, as though I'm an invalid.
Rest, my Lord King. In time we'll have our vengeance.
His words clang louder than the blacksmith's hammer. I feel no thrill in that. I don't believe we can ever have revenge for what's happened. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't welcome King Athelstan's death. I would. Of that one fact I'm assured.
Chapter 4. October 937. Malmesbury, the Kingdom of the English. Athelstan, King of the English. Sorrow clouds my eyes. This should be my moment of triumph. And yet, for all I know it is, I'm also wounded. Good men, both of them, lost their lives fighting for me. I know who killed them. I know only too well that it was Constantin's son, Ildolf, who stole their lives. I hope the bastard's dead, but somehow I doubt it. Constantin and his ilk are lucky individuals. Well, all apart from his grandson, Amlab, dead on Edmund's blade at Ket, and another son, Kalak, dead as well at Brunanburh. And all the while Alpin remains as my hostage for his father's good behaviour. Constantin must care nothing for him. I pity Alpin. I also know that others of Constantin's kin died on the slaughter field, but not Ildolf, and not Constantin. Even now, Edmund remains perplexed by the ease with which he killed Owain of Strathclyde. I'm unsurprised. Owain was Constantin's creature, and yet he didn't wish to be. He didn't allow Constantin to kill him. Instead, he permitted my brother to end his life. I wish I'd known more of the rancor between the two of them. I could have done more to exploit it. All the same, I believe the kingdom of Strathclyde will remain in the hands of Constantin and one of Owain's sons. My triumph hasn't been complete enough to ensure Constantin and Olaf Gothfrithson no longer plague my borders. Yes, thanks to Hule of the South Welsh, the scop that Constantin employed to spread discord amongst the Welsh people is no longer able to disseminate his lies of a future when all rise up against the English. Yet I can't help thinking much of the damage has already been done. My cousins are dead, and that's no one's fault but the coalition of the Scots and the Norse. I know my cousins died honourably. I know they died doing what they believed was correct for the future of my kingship. But it doesn't ease my grief at their loss, or my fury at what Alpin's fate might now be. My Lord King! I turn and meet the gaze of Edmund. His eyes are haunted to be here, in the royal mausoleum I'm having constructed at the religious site of Malmesbury.
No doubt he doesn't wish to be reminded that one day my body will lie here, and in my place he'll be king. My thoughts, her body lies enclosed beneath the church in Gloucester. The monument to her life is impressive, and my own intentions are largely based on hers. All the same, I'd sooner she lived, just as I'd rather my cousins did. What is it, Edmund? A messenger from Winchester. I feel my brow furrow at this, as I stand from kneeling. My prayers forgotten about, although the priest's words continue to be heard in the background. What is it? His face clouds once more, but then he meets my gaze. Our sister, Countess Edhild, is dead, and King Louis has cast aside the assistance of her husband in his kingship. The words are bland, and yet I find a smile on my lips, even as I know a moment of sorrow for Edhild. She had no children. Her husband will not take long to replace her either. She'll be little mourned, perhaps other than by her sisters living in the nunnery at Wilton. It's a poor assessment of her life. She deserves better. Once more, it's a sobering realization that so many of my father's children are dead. Alfred, Edwin, and now Edhild. Not that my father didn't have an army of children. All the same, a flicker of unease trembles through my body. I want to know what killed her. Alfred died of contagion. Edwin on my orders, and Edhild? I don't know. Perhaps it was in childbirth, although there's no mention of a child. Maybe it was some other cause. I shake aside the unsettling feelings that not knowing brings to my mind. Then we must have prayers said for more than just our cousins. Quickly I bend and return to my knees. This time Edmund joins me. His words voice the familiar prayers, although on occasion he mutters only an Amen, the Latin too complex to fully understand, even with his schooling at Glastonbury. My eyes stray from the wooden floor beneath my knees to the altar and the priceless relics ensconced beneath it, for all few know how to access them. Our Lord God has ensured my success, but I can't deny the price has been heavy. I should have my will rewritten. I must ensure funds are made available for the eternal praying necessary to escort my cousins and my half-sister as they make their way to heaven. It's imperative I reinforce the defences at Chester, in case Constantine thinks to make good on his failure. It's vital I ensure the contrary Archbishop of York stays true to his oaths. Of necessity, I must consider the families of those men who died fighting for me, and of course, I need to find out how affairs in Dublin and the Kingdom of the Scots now stand. Does Olaf Gothfrithson still live? Does Anlath Sitrickson? Do Constantine and Ildolb? I must have reparations for what they've cost England. I need to decide what to do about Alpin. Perhaps I realize I should have allowed him to fight against his father. Maybe I should have allowed him to prove himself for who he is, and not his identity as his father's son. Many will write of this battle. They'll write of the men who met their deaths there, but I confess, I wish it had been some of the more important individuals rather than the son of the Danish king and Gibachen of the Northern Isles. A pity it wasn't Olaf Gothfrithson who was struck down dead. A pity it wasn't Constantine of the Scots, but instead his son, Calac. The knowledge of what brought us to battle and what caused the resentment to form swirls in my thoughts. The Scop that Constantine employed is a man of great skill. He still lives, transferred into my care by Hewell of the South Welsh on finding him. Perhaps I
have a use for him that won't end in his death. Not yet, anyway. Chapter 5. November 937. Hereford, the Kingdom of the English. Idwal, King of Gwynedd. Damn the bloody Norse. They're no good for anything. And damn Olaf Gothfrithson. If not for him and his failure to beat Athelstan of the English, then I wouldn't be here now, in Hereford, once more forced to bend the knee to Athelstan in agreement to his onerous terms that assure the Welsh kingdoms of peace with the King of the English. I eye him with unease. He's grown in stature since his success at Brunanburh. He was already an overbearing ass, and now he's 10 times as bad. And at his side, his brother Edmund struts as well. The pair look like prize fools. Hugh has also joined this. Once more I growl low in my throat. He's come out of this looking better than I do. Damn him as well. My lord King Athelstan. I bow low towards Athelstan, but not respectfully. Rather, I wish to obscure my face until I can set it into one that's at least not contemptuous. I should have sought out Hugh first, and called upon him as my cousin to ease relations with the English king, as he tried to do over a decade ago when Athelstan forged 2 peace accords, one at Aymont with Constantin, Hugh, Owain of Strathclyde, and Aldred of Bamborough, and one in Hereford, between Athelstan and the other Welsh kingdoms, my own included. My lord Idwal, you are welcome to Hereford. Even Athelstan's voice is unctuous, setting my teeth on edge. I shouldn't have come here. Although, well, if I hadn't, then Athelstan would likely have marched into my kingdom and demanded my submission, as he did to Constantin at Kett 4 summers ago. He's a man aware of his reach and power, his influence and the respect that his overwhelming victory against the combined force of the Scots and the Norse gifts him. Rumours reach me of the retribution Athelstan means to take against Constantin, of the work being undertaken to reinforce Chester and York, of Athelstan's intentions towards Alpin, Constantin's son, who's a hostage at the English king's court. He won't be for much longer. Damn Olaf. Damn Constantin. Please, rise. Athelstan continues, turning towards Edmund. You've met my brother before, I'm sure, he asks. I smile, but I deem it more of a grimace. Edmund is flush with his triumph and his youth. I don't think I was ever as young as him. Even his youthful countenance annoys me. And of course you know your cousin Hugh and the other kings of the Welsh people as well. Morgan ap Owain of Gwent, Tudor ap Griffey ab Elise of Brycheiniog, and Goriad of Gluising. Damn him again. He even speaks our Welsh names well. Is there anything he can't do? Indeed, my lord king, greetings to you all, I call, trying to sound jaunty, although it sounds off even to my ears. Searching eyes greet mine. I imagine Morgan, Tudor, and Goriad are as happy to be here as I am. I'm the last. Now I meet their interest. I respect none of them. There was a time I thought them worthy of my regard when they stood aside from King Athelstan and refused to attend upon him within England. But that time is long past. I imagine all of them pissed themselves with fright when Athelstan demanded their attendance upon him. Only the urging of my brother Cadfan has brought me here. He argued it was better to have peace than war. I'm still not sure I agree with him. Be seated. King Athelstan is magnanimous as he speaks, his hand pointing to a seat that's been left free for me, next to my cousin Hugh. Damn him all over again. Ill-mannered, I sit roughly, the wooden legs scraping over the wooden floorboards. Hugh winces. I grin on meeting his gaze. He rolls his eyes at my antics. Good. King Athelstan pauses for a moment while servants refill goblets of wine and place food before me. I missed this meal purposefully. I'd sooner not eat his food, and yet my belly growls angrily. Gentlemen, Athelstan eventually speaks, his eyes everywhere. I try not to meet his gaze, but it's bewitching, and I struggle to turn aside as his appraising eyes linger on me. I incline my head again, somehow compelled to be more respectful for all I don't intend to be. I've brought us together to reassert our alliances, variously agreed at Hereford or since then, and to reveal to you the man who's caused us so many problems. King Hugh assisted me in tracking down Athelstan. I'm grateful for your help. Again, Athelstan speaks respectfully, and I think Hugh preens like a bloody pheasant. As he speaks, the scop I recognize only too well appears before us. I expect him to be bound, bloody and beaten, even now, months after the events of Brunanburh. But no, the man's dressed in court finery, and his boots gleam with fresh polish. His hair is cut into a pleasing shape, the nape of his neck shorn close, his fringe long and tied with trinkets that clatter together musically. What is this? I was sure he'd be dead by now, or if not, have had his tongue severed from his mouth, to prevent more tales being spread to sunder Athelstan's alliance forged at Hereford over a decade ago. Perhaps, I think, Athelstan may be alongside those of his sons, Alpin. Everyone says that Athelstan will execute Alpin, if he hasn't already. Gentlemen. I recognize the voice as the man bows low. It's melodic even now. This is Athelstan. I believe many of you will know him. I understand he's respected at every court upon this island, including mine. The scop shows no fear in Athelstan's presence. Neither do any of Athelstan's attendant warriors look particularly on edge. I'm sure they are. But it's not for fear of what the scop will say or do. I look to one of the men, and he grimaces, showing me his teeth in the process. Bloody marvellous. Good day to you all, Athelstan continues. I nod towards him, determined not to allow Athelstan's warrior to fluster me, while Hugh smiles at the man. Why Hugh took it upon himself to apprehend Athelstan, I don't know. Does he not dream of a time our kingdoms might be free from English interference? No, of course he doesn't. He thinks only of his precious laws, coins, and justice. What's wrong with the edge of my blade to ensure men and women do as they should and obey my command? He is, of course, the man who constructed the scop song that all of your countrymen and women are humming and singing. I take it you don't need it repeated. All the same, Athelstan hums the familiar refrains. My foot taps along in time to the tuneful rendition. But I've put him to greater purposes. When we've reaffirmed our alliance and reinstated the original terms of our peace accord, including making good on the missing years of reparations and tithes, I'll have him share his latest composition with us all. I startle at this. What has King Athelstan done? What has Athelstan done? And why must it be the original terms that are reinstated? And why must they be backdated? My Lord King, I've had no opportunity to discuss this matter with you. I rejoin too hastily, I realize, as Hugh smacks. It's of no consequence, my Lord Edward. Athelstan's response is much slower.
These fine gentlemen have agreed to the terms already, and so all you need to do is add your signature to the new agreement. Any time for negotiation. The terms are fair, are they not? This Athelstan directs to Hule, who nods, and also to Tudor, Morgan, and Goriad, who offer no complaints. Damn the fools. My gaze flicks to Edmund, and also to the man sitting beside him. I squint, trying to place him, and then I remember, of course, the English king has his prisoner at his side, Alpin, son of Constantin, as if I needed any more of a reminder of the might of the English kingship. I'm surprised his sisters aren't there as well. After all, Athelstan won York through marrying his sister to Sihtric, who then had the misfortune to die. It's a fine warning, but a warning it is. I sign or lose a son or a brother. I'd rather lose my precious supplies than do that. King Constantine might be able to abandon his son, but I can't do that. Very well, my Lord King. I forced the words through dry lips, not even the fine wine able to bring enough fluid to my tongue to make the words more than a harsh rasp. Bring the treaty. King Athelstan speaks into the sudden silence. You'll be the last to add your signature. Alas, the roads must have delayed you. With quill to hand, I eye the scratches of my fellow Welsh kings, noting that Hule's name is missing. No doubt his terms are more generous than mine. I pause, every bone in my body wanting to deny what needs to be done. The moment elongates, the words blurring before me. For all they've been penned in a handsome ink, they're easy enough to read. The terms not onerous, but unacceptable to me all the same. Come, cousin. Hule nudges me when I don't immediately sign. Don't keep your overlord waiting. His words are whispered. I jolt at them all too easily. I understand that I've made a difficult situation even worse with my tardiness and refusal to engage in this new peace conference. Growling while Hule chuckles softly, I add my mark, careful to keep the ink away from my skin. With that done, the cleric rushes to remove the manuscript, another taking the quill and ink. And then I sit back, hands over my belly, legs stretched out before me. It's done. I'm once more subservient to Athelstan. Athelstan murmurs, as though he's about to say something inconsequential. Lord Alpin will be travelling to the kingdom of the Scots to enforce my dominion over them. Better to have a loyal man of the English than anyone else, keeping an eye on things. The news displeases me, but I realize others already know it. Damn them all again. Not that I think that Constantine will approve of such an arrangement, or his son, or Malcolm. And then Athelstan gestures expansively to Taliesin. The man nods, plucking the strings on his lute, and then he begins to speak. The words wash over me, and for every word spoken, my ire grows. King Athelstan is victorious in name and deed, and no doubt Taliesin and his Scop song will ensure all in the Welsh kingdoms are only too aware of the monumental victory that Athelstan and his brother forged at Brunanburh. I can hardly listen, and yet I do all the same. Damn Olaf Gothfrithson, and damn Constantine of the Scots, and damn Athelstan, the bloody king of the English. If he'd met his death at Brunanburh, then the English kingdom would have crumbled. I'm sure of that. Young Edmund lacks his brother's reputation and military might. Had Athelstan died at Brunanburh, but Edmund survived, then no matter the words of the Scop, England would not have endured.
not for the first time. I wish I'd allied with the Norse and Constantin of the Scots. If I had my chance again, I would. I wouldn't even hesitate.
Chapter 6. Late 937. Strathclyde. Ildulb, Prince of the Scots. I, Owain of Strathclyde's son, with ill-concealed contempt. I know my father hated Owain, and for good reason. I hardly think his son is any better. The only thing de Finwal has that's an advantage is his grovelling welcome towards me. He's not Owain, to be haughty and difficult, no. De Finwal owes all he has to my father.
My lord.
He bows low, as though he's my slave, not just my servant. I note it with a wry smile. Rise, I order him, please.
Your father.
As well, I counter quickly. Hail and hearty.
That pleases me.
He simpers again. I note his thin body, his feeble arms, the tunic which seems to settle on him as though a dress. I'm unsure why my father chose him to rule after Owain. I've come to discuss the terms of the new peace accord with King Athelstan, I announce quickly, settling before the hearth fire, welcoming the warmth on this high peak. On any other day, the views would be astounding. But with the cloud heavy and lowering, it's a wonder I don't walk off the side of the hill.
My lord.
Here de Finwal falters beside me, his goblet of wine hanging between his thin lips and his hand. The peace accord with King Athelstan
is agreed, my lord. I have submitted to him, as King Constantine bid my father, all those years ago.
Without my father's agreement. I feel my rage begin to build. The bloody fool. My brother Alpin, more English than bloody Scots, has been sent to impose Athelstan's demands over our father. I'd spit in his face if I could. We must pay the weir guild of the dead Englishmen. We must make good on those tithes not sent to the English. We must sign a peace accord, promising to never again ally with the Norse. My father's relief that Alpin lives means he's all too happy to oblige. But with Strathclyde, it means to be more obdurate. Or it did. It appears he's too damn late.
My lord, your father bid me reach an accord with the English messenger. I've done as he said.
De Finwal's correct. My father did bid him that, but not so bloody quickly. And what were the terms? I exhale. I should have come sooner, but I didn't wish to leave my father with Alpin. I don't trust him, despite my father's pleasure at seeing his son once more.
As to be expected, an alliance against the Norse, a promise never to break the peace.
And the reparations?
A resumption of the tithe.
What of the weir guild?
No, my lord. Your kingdom is to pay the weir guild. The English king was adamant about that.
I feel a growl on my lips and stand abruptly. I announce angrily, "You're his to command, and he'll agree with me." I notice the dismay in de Finwal's face, the way his hand shakes as he holds his goblet. "And never again make an agreement with the English king without my father's permission." Furious, I stride from the hall, the grey clouds cloaking me, but I know my way back to Scone, to where my brother sits at my father's side, as though he's the prodigal son returned, and not the viper in the nest. I've a mind to send him back to King Athelstan, cold and marbled in death. He's not my brother, not any more. He's not even a man of the kingdom of the Scots. Chapter 7. Christ's Mass, 937. Exeter, the Kingdom of the English. Edgarfu, the Lady of Wessex. Aye, the Scop. So much trouble can be laid at his feet, and yet King Athelstan has determined to reprieve him, and not only forgive him, but allow him to compose a Scop song in praise of the Battle of Brunanburh. The man is tall and wiry, well clothed at the king's expense, trinkets clattering together in his long hair. He looks very good for a man who should have been executed as a traitor. I think it's too much. After all, men died because of the words this man disseminated. I've tried to make him welcome within Athelstan's household, but I mistrust him still. No matter Edmund's instruction that I shouldn't. The Scop was once in the pay of King Constantin of the Scots, and now he does King Athelstan's bidding. I wish the king could see that men who allow their skills to be paid for by the highest bidder can't be counted upon. And yet, well, it'll be good to have King Athelstan's virtues extolled before the court. His reputation grows daily, even without the aid of the Scop. Athelstan has accomplished much. The kingdom of the English is united against the Norse and the Scots. Even the kingdom of Bamborough looks to Athelstan for leadership. Although Aldwulf, Lord Aldred's adult son and heir, is rumoured to still live. A pity he didn't meet his end on the slaughter field at Brunanburh. Alderman Guthrum holds Bamborough for the time being.
My lady.
I turn and meet King Athelstan's shining eyes. He's excited for all to hear the word. I reply, noting his finely stitched tunic, bedecked with the wyvern of Wessex and the eagle of Mercia. I notice, too, the head of Kent's horse and the snake of the East Anglians. Athelstan claims all and displays it in the embroidery and imagery that adorns him, his warriors, servants, slaves, and even his horses. He's truly a magnificent king. Not that the inclusion of Kent doesn't rankle. I confess it does. Kent was my gift to Athelstan's father, alongside my body in marriage. Athelstan has done nothing to earn it, other than respect me and my sons.
How's Edred?
Athelstan sits beside me. Edred has not long returned from the school at Glastonbury. He thinks himself too old to learn more, but boys who might one day be king should always be learning. King Edward had 5 sons between 3 wives. 2 of those sons are dead. Life is precarious. Not that a boy of his age will understand that. He grows. I laugh. Taller than me now by at least the width of my hand. Athelstan nods as though it's to be expected, and it probably is. Edmund is taller than Athelstan. I think Edred will be taller yet.
And his affliction?
It's past. Or so I'm told, a problem with his belly. The monks have told him what foods to eat. It'll be a tedious diet, but better than the pain he's experienced. Again the king nods, as though pleased to hear this. Only then he leans closer.
They say my grandfather was affected by the same affliction. It's a shame for Edred. It's to be hoped he finds a better way of contending with it than spending all his time praying.
The words are followed by a soft chuckle. Athelstan is perhaps more spiritual than his grandfather, but his faith is a light cloak, not something to quench all fire from his soul.
And what of the news from Louis in West Francia, and my half-sisters and their husbands?
I know a moment of sorrow to be reminded of Edhard, dead for half a year. Her husband replaced her immediately. I think little of him, and not just because of the problems he causes Louis, King of West Francia.
Eadgif sent word from Ashen and wished us well. I have not heard from Alfgifu for some time. Reading between the lines a little, I fear there's unease between your half-sisters, or rather between their husbands and sons. Athelstan nods. I know he's pleased not to contend with all of his sisters. I don't blame him. However, Edmund is concerned for Louis, and I share those worries. Athelstan's cousins in Flanders are not the most loyal, but I keep this to myself. For now. The others are safely about their prayers at Wilton. Edbur is extolled for her virtue. I'm proud of my daughter, even if a life of quiet prayer doesn't appeal to me.
Then we can relax and enjoy the words of the scop.
Athelstan announces. A sharp glance at his pensive face, and I realize he's doing the very opposite. Athelstan understands the twisted and tangled threads his sister's husbands and sons weave. He would, I think, do well not to become involved, but I know he will. He would think it unkingly to abandon them to the machinations of East and West Frankish politics. Edmund hastens to my side then, a swift bow towards the king, his brother, and Edmund pants softly beside me. I don't wish to know what he's been doing. He's dishevelled, but I don't detect the smell of horses on him. No doubt he's been amusing himself with women or ale elsewhere. I forgive him this once. After all, it is a time for celebration. With a sharp clap of his hands, the scop draws the eye of all. He bows towards King Athelstan, so low his nose almost touches the ground. And then, in a rich voice used to such displays, he begins his tale of the events at Brunanburh. Hear King Athelstan, leader of warriors, ring-giver of men, and also his brother. The eighthling Edmund struck lifelong glory in strife around Brunanburh, clove the shield wall, hacked the wartime with hammers' leavings. Edward's offspring, as was natural to them, by ancestry, that in frequent conflict they defend land, treasures, and homes against every foe. The antagonists succumbed. The nation of Scots and seamen fell doomed. The field darkened with soldiers' blood after, in the morning time, the sun, the glorious star, bright candle of God, until the noble creature sank to rest. There lay many a soldier of the men of the north, shot over shield, taken by spears, likewise Scottish also sated, weary of war. All day long, the West Saxons with elite cavalry pressed in the tracks of the hateful nation. With mill-sharp blades severely hacked from behind those who fled battle. The Mercians refused hard hand-play to none of the heroes who, with Olaf, over the mingling waves, doomed in flight, sought out land in the bosom of a ship. 5 young kings lay on the battlefield, put to sleep by swords. Likewise also 7 of Olaf's jarls, countless of the raiding army of seamen and Scots. There the ruler of Northmen, compelled by necessity, was put to flight to ship's prow with a small troop. The boat withdrew, saved life over the fallow flood. There also likewise the aged Constantin came north to his kith by flight. The hoary man of war had no cause to exult. In the clash of blades he was shorn of his kinsman. Deprived of friends on the meeting place of peoples, cut off in strife, and left his son.
on the place of slaughter, mangled by wounds, young in battle. The grey-haired warrior, old crafty one, had no cause to boast. In that clash of blades, no more had Olaf cause to laugh, with the remnants of their raiding army, that they were better in works of war. On the battlefield, in the conflict of standards, the meeting of spears, the mixing of weapons, the encounter of men when they played against Edward's sons on the field of slaughter. Never yet in this island was there a greater slaughter of people felled by the sword's edges before this, as books tell us. Old authorities, since Angles and Saxons came here from the east, sought out Britain over the broad ocean. Warriors, eager for fame, proud warsmiths, overcame the Welsh, seized the country.